Okay, I just put out that rules card mod. Let's see how the video did. What? Okay. Time to make a proper Deltarune video. Good day, everyone. I didn't expect the reception I got on that small mod showcase, but thanks! Now what should I make for Deltarune? Wait a second, I could make a theory video. On what? Mike? Nah, that feels like too much of a reach. Death Knight? Everyone already agrees with that though. The prophecy? People are going into extreme detail about it. But I think I might have something to say about it. So yeah, let's talk about Deltarune Chapter 4. It's great! It has lots of humor, lots of character interactions, lots of time signatures, and most importantly, lots of lore. The most important takeaway is that the prophecy, the same legend first summarized for us back in Chapter 1, tells the story of Deltarune itself, with a concerning degree of accuracy. The reason that's concerning is its ending. While we don't know what this ending is, Susie and Ralsei's reactions to it paint the picture that this ending, whatever it is really bad. So is there any way to change it? That's what this video is about. Let's take a look at every main Deltarune route and see where it seems to be going in relation to the prophecy. Now, the main route, expectedly, is not really going to stray from the prophecy at all. Rather, let's use this section to establish some ground points about Deltarune's progression that'll be important later. Early in Chapter 1, the game definitely tries to hammer in the fact that your choices do not matter. It's mentioned at the end of the Goner Maker, Susie mentions this fact when discussing the school project, and prior to even starting the game, one of the most important details in this game's marketing is its one ending. Most people in this community associate this detail in a similar vein to how Kill or Be Killed is associated with Undertale. An ideology said early in the game that, over the course of the game, is something that the player will prove wrong. In Undertale's case, the player gets the game's true ending by beating the game without killing a single monster. In Deltarune's case, people presume that through our actions somehow, the one ending of this game can be changed. We'll touch upon this more later. Another important detail is the way each chapter ends. Chapter 1's ending plays out a little differently depending on whether you spared every enemy you fought or not. However, this doesn't have much of an impact at all, and Castletown ends up in a nearly identical state either way. Chapters 2 through 4 are similar, but not exactly the same. Chapter 2 introduces the recruit mechanic, and similarly to Chapter 1, every chapter from it onwards has slightly different endings based on whether you recruit everyone in that dark world or not. Unlike Chapter 1 though, these ending differences do have a small impact on the end result. In Chapter 2, if you don't recruit everyone, Berdly's wing is fried, which has the actual impact of paralyzing that wing in the light world. In Chapter 4, Berdly will be in the library as usual if his wing isn't fried, but he ends up in the hospital if it is. In Chapter 3, Tenna's fate rests on whether you recruit everyone in that dark world. Susie mentions that the main trio looked for anyone who could repair Tenna after, If you recruit everyone, Tenna is actually able to be repaired and can be brought into Castletown and or given to Mettaton. If not, he can't. While we don't quite know what the repercussions of Chapter 4's ending are yet, we can make some assumptions based on what happens. If you recruit everyone, Jackenstein actually gets saved at the last minute by a Tower of All the Darkness in the church. If not, Jackenstein just falls, with nobody to save him. This could very likely be a similar situation to Tenna, where, if you don't recruit everyone, Jackenstein could very likely just be dead. But there's an important point to all of these. While all of these have an impact on what side content can be accessed in future chapters, they don't have an impact on the story itself. King is still stopped in the nick of time. Berdly is still unable to fight, but helps with the formation of the Thrash Machine used to stop Giga Queen. Tenna is still slashed by the Knight before they leave with Undyne. Jackenstein still can't go any further, leaving the main trio alone to face the Knight, and everything that happens as a result. despite leading to a better end result, they all don't matter in the grand scheme of things. These details were observed before, albeit at an inherently smaller scale, in the Chapters 1 and 2 demo. Outside of the prophecy mentioned earlier, all the new chapters do for this video is double down on the information we knew from the earlier chapters, at least in regards to the main route. So let's move on to a more interesting talking point, and what made me curious about discussing this topic further. The Shadow Crystals have long been held as a major way in which Deltarune's narrative of choices not mattering could be broken. At least some detail about each chapter's Shadow Crystal has been tied to the concept of freedom in some way. Devil makes a big fuss about being the only truly free one. Spamton Neo's goal of freedom is shackled by his puppet strings. Ram advertises the original Mantle game as being one where you get to decide what to do, and Gerson encourages the main trio, mainly Chris, to go between the lines of the prophecy. Not to mention, a common bit of flavor text among these three fights that by itself came to define one of Deltarune's most well-known musical motifs. Obviously, with so many allusions to freedom, this has to be related to the way the prophecy could be broken, right? Just one small problem with that. When fighting Gerson, he recounts the story of Lord of the Hammer. Lord of the Hammer is based on the prophecy, and itself is the basis for Dragon Blazers. As a result, it can be implied that anything that happens in either series that also happens in Deltarune itself is very likely part of the prophecy. Let's actually go through the story as he tells it. Chapter 1. The March of the Dark King. The heroes defeat the king and stop the dragon. This is pretty obviously just the end result of Chapter 1. Gerson later confirms that Susie is the dragon, and everything falls into place from there. Susie's rampage throughout the Dark World is stopped, and the king is defeated. Chapter 2. The City of the Shining. The heroes do battle in chariots to save the queen. This is much more complicated. Chariots could refer to a few things. They could refer to the roller coaster ride, which you fight Bertley on, or they could refer to the Thrash Machine, which you use to defeat Giga Queen, but you aren't really saving the queen here. In fact, you're fighting her in both cases, either directly or indirectly, so unless Noelle is supposed to be the queen, guess this doesn't really fit into Deltarune's story, right? Oh, right. So let's take a detour and talk about the Weird Route. In Chapter 2's part of the Weird Route, you emotionally manipulate Noelle into freezing every enemy you find, culminating in freezing Birdly. An important step to do this is purchasing the Thorn Ring from Spamton. Somehow, after doing your thing, this results in Spamton being able to assume his Neo form and take over Queen's mansion. This proves one thing for the purposes of this section. Spamton, especially in his Neo form, is a genuine threat to Queen's power. You can fight Spamton Neo in the main route, it's how you get this chapter's Shadow Crystal after all, but there's an interesting detail about it. You're riding on a roller coaster for this fight, just like in the Birdly fight. So, you're fighting an enemy with the capacity to threaten Queen's power, and you're on a roller coaster for said fight. That sounds a lot like something that could be interpreted as doing battle in chariots to save the queen. Bingo! Chapter 3. The Isles of Northern Light. The heroes travel among the islands and catch a glimpse of a lost land. Northern Light, huh? You're told to go there in the original Mantle game in order to continue the quest to get the Shadow Mantle. You can actually see this part of the map while Tenna's gone, just after the Love Bridge is created. You can't actually do much here, but it sure sounds like the heroes catching a glimpse of a lost land. Alternatively, in Mantle, the area that follows is a major hint to the Weird Route, the Forbidden Path as it states. This is part of the side route to get the Shadow Mantle, which is essentially required to beat the Roaring Knight and get this chapter's Shadow Crystal. A glimpse of a forbidden path, another potential lost land. Either way, Gerson's talking about this section of Mantle. Chapter 4. The Trials of the Holy Hammer. A great smith gives the heroes a terrible weapon. probably the most clear-cut one to explain. The great smith is Gerson, and the terrible weapon is the Justice Axe. Because, a big defining element of this axe is that the axe itself has no special powers, outside of it having the best damage of any axe so far. But instead, the main draw is that, in the process of obtaining it, Susie had to refine her magic abilities, especially her healing abilities. Chapter 5, The Field of Pink and Gold. The vast garden is charred in an inferno of jealousy. Now, Chapter 5 isn't actually available at this time, so this is more of a guess. Pink and gold, or alternatively pink and yellow, are colors heavily associated with a number of things in Deltarune. There's friend, almost a personification of darkness as a concept. More notably though, Spamton's glasses are these same colors, Jevel's devil's knife has a striped pink and yellow pattern for the handle, and the odd controller Chris uses to play the mantle game is described as having buttons colored and ugly pink and yellow. Evidently, these colors are meant to be connected to the secret bosses. With the exception of Chapter 1, all of these recounts are connected to the shadow crystals in some way. Through that fact, they all reveal the true nature of the shadow crystals. If they're mentioned in Lore of the Hammer, they're likely a part of the prophecy. You aren't breaking the prophecy by collecting the shadow crystals. Rather, you are actively making an effort to more closely follow it in the illusion of freedom. So, if the shadow crystals are a dead end, is there still a way to break the prophecy? Yeah, this is where things start getting interesting. The weird route has a few aspects of it that suggest it would break the prophecy. One of the beads in the hospital breaks off in Chapter 2, but more importantly, Ralsei has some unique dialogue at the end of Chapter 4. If you choose, it's okay not to smile. After Ralsei talks about how he hopes the story can change, he adds the following. But what would that be? If there was something else, what would it be? And how do we know? It wouldn't be something even worse. Considering this dialogue only appears on the weird route, it's probably a sign of where the weird route will go from here. The weird route also directly contradicts the prophecy thanks to what is essentially a gag panel. The Queen's chariot cannot be stopped. This is an obvious reference to the section in Chapter 2 where Chris drives Queen's car quite recklessly. This section does not happen in the weird route, as after the Birdley fight, Chris takes a manhole directly to Queen's mansion. But even this has a point against it. If you wait in the basement while Noelle and Susie are searching for the power breaker, eventually they'll discuss Dragon Blazers 2. One of the aspects they discuss about is an evil route in the game. Uh-oh. Susie notes that she found it by accident by not realizing that you could spare enemies. Okay, so this is probably not talking about the weird route then. More likely, this is simply referring to the different endings of each chapter if you recruit everyone or not. Keep in mind that Dragon Blazers is a story that is multiple layers of derivative of another story, meaning small details could be either overblown or forgotten completely. Making a full evil route out of the story so far could have been a creative choice since it differs from the weird route in execution. So that point may just be moot. Meaning it's back to being very likely that the weird route will break the prophecy. But I think there's still one last point of discussion regarding the weird route, and I think it may just have the true answer to our question. Let's recap for just a second. The weird route is very likely what will break the prophecy, while the shadow crystals, despite the theme of freedom, by themselves do not bring us any closer to breaking the prophecy. At the end of Chapter 2's Weird Route, you do fight Spamton Neo, just like we've stated earlier. But there's a clear distinction here. You're not fighting him on the roller coasters, you're fighting him right next to the fountain. This actually serves as a break from Gerson's description of Lore of the Hammer, meaning that, for once, a shadow crystal is collected while breaking from the prophecy. This fight in particular makes the ties to freedom even more apparent than the main route version of Spamton Neo. Take this quote from Spamton Neo during the fight. You think making frozen chicken with your side chick is going to let you drink up that sweet, sweet freedom sauce? Well, you're right. But don't blame me when you're crying in a broken home, wishing you let your old pal Spamton kill you. Well, it doesn't get much more clear than that. But let's go a little deeper. I can generally put the various changes that the Weird Route makes outside of the route itself into a few categories. Chris and Noel changes, natural effects of the Weird Route, Ralsei's observations, and Shadow Crystal related stuff. Both Chapter 3 and Chapter 4's paths to getting the Shadow Crystal have some new dialogue that only plays if you're on the Weird Route. The Shadow Mantle Holder will mention that Chris is secretly having fun, just like they did yesterday. In the tea session, after getting some of the notes to unlock the room for the Hammer of Justice fight, Gerson notes that Chris is having a tough time and despite that, is forced to go through the motions, and tries to cheer them up. That marks every Shadow Crystal after the Weird Route begins as having a difference from the main route if you're on it. That can't be a coincidence. Freedom is one of the most important themes with regards to the Shadow Crystals, but as we've seen, they're part of the prophecy already. But what isn't part of the prophecy is the Weird Route. So how could the Shadow Crystals offer freedom then? Well, the entire reason we're going after them may be a clue. Sham has stated multiple times that once we have every Shadow Crystal, they'll be able to make something for us. Based on what we know, the last one will be collected in Chapter 5. Another thing to note is the Chapter 5 page from the updated Spamton sweepstakes. This page was most likely made as a teaser for what the Weird Route will become in future chapters. Both the visibility and size of these numbers correspond roughly with how much of an impact they have on the Weird Route. There aren't any numbers after 5, not even hidden, which some people have started to speculate means that the Weird Route may end in Chapter 5. So if this is the case, then there's a strange match between this and the Shadow Crystals. The Twisted Sword is a currently unused weapon in Deltarune. It can be crafted by Malleus with the Thorn Ring, the item that the Weird Root centralizes around, and the Pure Crystal, an item that we do not know about yet. So, two similar story paths that conclude around the same time, an item that needs one of those path's key items to craft it, as well as another item that is named similarly to the other path's key items, with someone willing to craft those items into something else. I think I see the bigger picture here. Time to lay out my prediction for the future of these routes. After Chapter 5's Weird Route, the route will end, and the Thorn Ring will be returned to your inventory. Sham will craft the Shadow Crystals into the Pure Crystal. While the Pure Crystal is meant for story progression, it is also usable to craft the Twisted Sword alongside the Thorn Ring. The Twisted Sword is the key to breaking the prophecy and giving Chris true freedom, but at what cost? While this does meaningfully break the prophecy, it has a more dire effect on Deltarune's ending than the original ending of the story. And there you have it. This is how you break the prophecy, and also why you shouldn't. Deltarune's ending is not supposed to be changed. You get choices, but not the ability for those choices to have a massive influence in the story. There really is only one true way to change the story, and its ending is very likely going to be even worse than the one you are trying to change. But hey, that's just speculation at the end of the day. While there's still open air on how Deltarune will end, it's fun to speculate on what themes its ending will go for, hence why theory videos are so popular and common. Thanks for watching my attempt to throw my hat into the ring, this very, very crowded ring. There's a very good chance that this video becomes a one-off on my channel. I don't feel like I'm going to be making more theory videos like this. But hey, maybe that'll change if this video does well. We'll see. But yeah, with that out of the way, thanks for watching and stay safe everybody.